What is up, all my Nexus family? It is your host, Dr. Daniel Kimbley, and you are tuned into another episode of the Nexus Podcast. And on this week's episode of the podcast, I have to share a story with you that literally went down in my office yesterday. It may not be yesterday when you're listening to this or watching it. However, what went down is that we had a new client come into the office, and as I'm explaining, like I like to do, a lot about the nervous system and talking about fight or flight and rest and digest and the sympathetic versus the parasympathetic and the prefrontal cortex and how, function and everything about success comes from the prefrontal cortex of the brain. I had this realization as he's talking to me. He's like, hey, this all sounds cool, but the problem with it is I can't go explain this to somebody else. He's like, it makes sense. I understand the words that you're saying, but I can't go tell someone else what it is that you do. And to me, that's a problem. And so when I started thinking about this concept, I really started asking myself the question over since that happened, all night last night, woke up super early this morning, went surfing, had a good workout, but this question's been in the back of my head. Is how do we make this principle so simple that anyone can understand it, that a third grader could understand it? Because the reality is, a lot of times I talk about chiropractic and I talk about the brain and I get so fired up about it, and I know I like to speak quickly, but the problem is that sometimes it's just very difficult to understand what it actually is that we do inside of our office. And when we talk about neurologically based or brain-based chiropractic care, what does that mean? And more importantly than what does it mean is how does it work, and then what could it help with, right? And so the simple explanation, right? People always are asking okay, Dr. Daniel, explain it to me in the most simple terms possible. What is it that you do that you can help people with? And it's simple, is that we adjust the joints of the spine to wake up the brain so that you can express life at the highest level possible. Now, what does that mean? It means that your brain controls every single thing that happens in your entire body. Your brain tells your body to build bone, your brain tells your body to break down muscle tissue, your brain tells your body to release cortisol or insulin or your stress hormones, or your brain tells your body to digest food, your brain tells your body to detox stuff through your skin. There's all these processes, they're all guided and controlled by the brain, by the central nervous system. So what does this mean? It means that if the nervous system, the central nervous system or the brain is not functioning at 100%, you, my friend, I'm sorry to tell you that you are not functioning at 100%. And the same is true with me, right? The same is true is what we do is when we adjust and we move the joints of the spine, it sends a specific message to the brain that tells the brain, turn off fight or flight or stress and go into rest and digest. And it's really that simple. And then we can train the brain to have a higher level of adaptability, so things that used to seem stressful are no longer stressful. Things that used to seem scary are no longer scary. Things that used to seem overwhelming and not accomplishable become accomplishable and become achievable. One of my favorite stories, I've shared this on an episode of the podcast before, one of our clients came in and he's like, dude, if you can help me make $1 million in a day, he's like, I would love to do so. He's like, I've done $1 million in a year, I've done $1 million in a month, never done $1 million in a day. 4 weeks after being with us, he comes in and he's like, dude, I gotta tell you, I did first $1 million day I've ever had in my life. Of course he works hard. He's a boss entrepreneur. He's amazing. And at the same time, he realized that he was more on point neurologically from a brain perspective than he had ever been simply through using chiropractic care. Now, the question becomes well, okay, how does all that work? And it simply works like this, is that movement of the joints of your spine is what strengthens your brain. But the trick is that your joints of your spine have to be moving properly. And so every time that we have a stress that we don't fight or run away from, it negatively affects how our spine is moving because our brain wants to stay in a stressed out protective state. And if we're in a protective state, we're going to be in a protective posture. And if we're in a protective posture, joints of our spine are not going to move well. And there's only one way to evaluate whether you have this protective posture or you have this protective state in your nervous system, and that's through neurological testing and the thermography scans that we do to be able to determine where exactly in your body is there stress stuck on that's weakening your brain. So think of your brain like a muscle. And your brain, the stronger it is, the stronger your expression of life. The stronger your brain is, the stronger your focus, the stronger your attention, the stronger your presence, the stronger your productivity, the stronger your profit, the stronger your sense of purpose, the stronger your connection to God, the stronger you're going to be as an individual, as a human being, because what we know is that the vibrations that we do to your spine affect the part of your brain that is responsible for success. It's responsible for you being able to experience life joy out. for you being able to experience a purpose and power and passion inside of your life that may not have been there before. And these aren't just words that I'm saying. Like, the coolest part about it is I experienced this for myself. For nearly a year, my wife tried to convince me, you gotta go see this chiropractor, you gotta go see this chiropractor, you gotta go see this chiropractor. And my answer was always this. It was, why would I need to go get my neck cracked? I don't have any problems. Like, I'm fine, I'm good. And lo and behold, she knew something that I didn't know. And when I started getting adjusted, it woke me up to this reality inside of my life that I was not living inside of my soul purpose, and that there was more for me, and that there could be more for my life, and there could be more possibility. And guess what? I started to take calculated risk and make better decisions with my money. I started to make calculated decisions and make better decisions inside of my profit and productivity and how I make money and my employment. And this is when I decided to quit my job. So the reason I share this with you is because, like, most people would say, like, oh, I'm fine, I don't need to see a chiropractor. Why would I need to see a chiropractor? Like, everything's good. Like, do you want it to be good, or do you want it to be great? Do you want to function at 100%, or do you want to function at 95%? And so often I see people who are like, oh, so healthy. Like, my husband, my spouse, my partner, my boyfriend, my girlfriend, my kids, they're so healthy. Until they pop up and they have cancer, and then it's like, were they really healthy? Because the cancer didn't just pop up overnight. It had been brewing inside the system. And so I'm just sharing this with you as an idea and the thought process of, like, if your brain is not functioning at 100%, there's no way you can have a life expression at 100%. And I have to read this research to you because I think it's so interesting. There's a guy named Chris Kent, and he talks about adaptability in the body. And this is really what we're after when we're adjusting anybody that we take care of inside of our office, is that adaptability, he says, this is Chris Kent, adaptability determines the scope of our human experience. As a human being, we have a choice. We can avoid challenges that narrow the scope of our life experience, or we can remove barriers that limit the expression of our potential. Adaptability defines our life. What we do inside of our office, simply put, without all the sciencey stuff, is we remove the barriers, the stress on in your system that limits you from expressing your potential. Period. We remove the barrier of stress stuck on in your brain that limits your potential. This is why we see dancers who start dancing better. This is why we see athletes who start performing better. This is why we see entrepreneurs who start making more money. This is why we see relationships restored. This is why we see people who were told that they were going to be stuck with a certain diagnosis for the rest of their lives completely get off their medications. This is why we see moms who tell us, my kid's had 5,000 seizures over the course of her life, and she's only 3 years old, and she's had the longest stretch ever in her life since starting with you. She's been seizure free. And my family's sleeping at night again, and we're not stressing again. And this weight has been lifted off of our entire household as a result of the care that you provide. Why? Because we removed the barrier of stress on in this little girl's system that limited her expression and potential in life. And that's simply what we do. And so all the time, as I think about this, it just frustrates me. We had 2 clients this week who said to us, they said, I'm gonna, instead of doing chiropractic care, I'm gonna go do this special eye therapy, or I'm gonna go do this special massage, or we're gonna do this other kind of therapy. I'm not hating on the therapies because they're not bad. They're super helpful. But the reality is that what controls our adaptability is our brain and how it interprets the world. And if our body is stuck in a stress or fight or flight state, the interpretation of the world is going to be fearful, it is going to be scary, it is going to be overwhelming, it is going to be negative. And if you're in a fight or flight state, the only thing your body needs to do is literally either kill something or run away from it. It doesn't need to worry about expression. It doesn't need to worry about purpose. It doesn't need to worry about relationships. It doesn't need to worry about anything except for, I need to fight it or I need to run away from it. And so people come in all the time, they're wondering why don't I have energy? Or why am I in so much pain? Or why do I feel no sense of purpose? Or why do I feel back when I was younger, I was so strong, I was such a powerful person, and I just feel like that person's in there somewhere, but they're stuck and they can't express themselves. And the reality is that the reason that they can't express themselves is because they're stuck in a stressed out state. And when we remove the barrier, we're not asking people to go avoid the stress in their lives. I want my entrepreneurs, I want my moms, I want the kids and the athletes and everybody that we take care of and all the high performers and the most amazing human beings, I want them to be able to take on more. Period. I want to see them be able to do harder stuff. I want them to be able to endure more stress. I want to see them push themselves beyond their barriers that they even knew were possible. And we see it all the time because we're not telling people inside of our office, just don't work out anymore. Just stop playing. If it hurts your shoulder, just stop playing golf. If it hurts your back, just stop surfing. Like what we do is we allow people to overcome their stresses inside of their life, and so they can take on more stress and their bodies are still adaptable. We literally remove the barrier. Like we don't remove the stress, we remove the barrier to the body being able to function at 100%. And this is what we get so passionate inside of our office about, is helping people express their life full out, express their true potential. From the time that I started undergrad, I knew that every single person had the exact same potential to be healthy, to be strong, to be successful, to be wealthy, to be abundant, to be spiritually connected, to have great relationships, to have a great job, to expressing their passion, to having lots of power, to being strong, to being mentally fit, like all the things that matter in life. Every single one of us are designed to have that same exact experience. But in the presence of stress stuck on in the nervous system, that will create a barrier to us experiencing that life full out. And my friends, I would ask you, where inside of your life do you feel stuck? Where inside of your life do you feel a barrier? Where inside of your life do you feel like there's something missing that you just can't figure it out? And even though you tried massage, and even though you tried PT, and even though you tried the therapies, and even though you tried every supplement, and even though you've reached out to all the mom groups, and even though you've tried every single hack that you could possibly think of, and something's still not working, maybe you start addressing the brain. Start addressing the cause. Start addressing the thing that allows you to experience life full out. And when you do so, I can guarantee you, just like it has for me and thousands of people that we have taken care of, that it will be a game changer for you inside of your life. My friends, I love you and I appreciate you. I hope you got some value out of this episode. I share this with you for one reason, is because I want to see you crush it in life. I want to see your family members crush it in life. And my biggest hope is that I can just impact one more person in this world to allow them to live at the potential that we were all designed to live at. I love you. I appreciate you. Have an amazing week. And you know I will come at you again next week. Peace.